Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Imagine living in a house where your grandmother, your hardworking mom, and your younger sister are just trying to get by, all while dealing with a lazy, entitled uncle who's been freeloading for years. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with a turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. My uncle has been living in my mom's house for 4 years. A few days ago, he crossed the line. Hello, fellow Redditors. I'm a female, 16, and this post will require a few bits of backstory. My uncle in this story is EU, entitled uncle. My mom, nice parent, and my uncle's friend is Paul. 4 years ago, my grandma became very sick. She lived in a flat, and she became so weak that she couldn't get up the stairs. This forced her to move in with my mom, the only one of her 5+ kids who would take her. Of course, she had to sleep downstairs since she couldn't get upstairs. She had to sleep on the couch since back then we weren't in the place to buy a bed. My grandma didn't seem to have a problem with sleeping on the couch, though. Along with my grandma came her 2 sons, one of them being EU. The other one was decent and was a relatively normal guy. He was respectful and gave rent despite him nor EU having a job. However, EU did not give rent and still doesn't to this day. He spends all of his time out of the house drinking, even if he doesn't have money. He borrows money and owes a lot out. I'm not sure of exact numbers, but it's well over 2,000 pounds. Throughout the years, EU became more trashy. He would leave mountains of beer cans in the kitchen and stay up late playing loud music with my distant relatives. He never cared if it was a school night for me and my younger sister. If we complained to him, he'd brush us off and tell us to tune it out. Also, before any of you blame my mom, you'd be wrong. You see, she's a shy woman that hates conflict with a passion, and even if her brother was terrible, she still loves him as her family member. She even tried to help him get his own flat, which he didn't have a single living crap about. Moving on, there's one main incident I remember from the one that happens recently. He's done a lot of bad things in the years, but this one stuck out to me. EU invited Paul over for a drink. This friend is known for theft, by the way, and just as you would have expected, Paul stole money from my mom. It was even worse because it was money to buy me and my younger sister food, so we didn't get to have a decent meal for about 2 days until my mom's friend gave her money after hearing about everything. It stressed my mom out big time, and hearing my mom cry stuck with me. The concept of what happened is EU stole mom's car keys. He did this because no one would take him to go buy cigarettes. He hid the car key and convinced everyone that he took them out with him. I later ended up finding them, and after a bit got suspicious after seeing him walking out of the house with no car keys in sight. My mom was panicked the whole time since we weren't and probably won't be for a long time, but a new car. Along with the car being used as well. To throw salt on the wound, my little cousin's scooter was in the back of the car and we couldn't get it. This happened a few days ago, but nothing has really happened since then. Update. My other nice uncle is trying to find a flat at the moment, but is having a lot of trouble. Unfortunately for my nice uncle, EU will be moving in with him, but they both seem to be okay with this. Also, my mom is a very hardworking person and probably the most sane person of all her siblings. My mom's the best. She always works hard and does what she can to help her kids, me and my sister. We live a good life, and it'll hopefully become better when my uncle and EU move out. Your mom and any of her friends really need to kick that bun of a sloth out, along with going permanent no contact, and you might need a restraining order too. And our second story. Uncle doesn't like the jeans and shoes I got him for work. I have relatives who have moved to the US recently. They've been waiting a long time, 15+ years, so was happy they finally got approved to move here. I helped with their immigration applications, fronted the immigration fees, got them set up with phones and housing here. So far, we've found jobs for 5 of the 6 people that can work. My parents were able to find work for them through people they know. My relatives know limited English and have no actual references in the US, so these are not the most glamorous jobs, working at a well-known coffee establishment, Dunkin', but a job's a job. My uncle, Mo, went to the coffee shop the other morning to finalize some paperwork. I called him later that day asking how he went. He tells me that it went well, but they need a gray polo, blue jeans, and black shoes. There are stores near where my uncle lives, but he'd have to either bike in the dark or take a bus to the stores, and hopefully they have what he needs, so he asked me if I can come and take them to the stores. Blue jeans and black shoes should be easy to find, but gray polos may be a problem. At least finding them at a reasonable price without driving all over the place. It's a Friday night at this point, so I just want to hang out with my baby son before we put him to bed and chill with my wife. I tell him to just give me his sizes and I'll pick them up and drop them off. My idea is I can just order them online at a place like Target nearby instead of wasting time walking around stores, which will give me time to hang out with my son before bedtime, do the pickup and drop off, and be back home for dinner with my wife. Once the orders are ready, later that night I pick them up and go to where Mo is to drop off what I got. I also got some lights for his bike for when he uses it in the dark. He immediately just complains. First complaint is that he wanted black sneakers, not shoes. I tell him I asked him to confirm which ones during our phone call, and he said shoes, so I got shoes. Plus, I checked online for what the coffee place usually requires, and I saw shoes. This along with the shoes I got being work shoes, so they're flexible and have non-slip rubber soles. Exactly what I saw online for what would be needed. I also told him I asked my mom, and she said any black shoe or sneaker is fine. He seems to accept that answer, but then says they're too big for him, even though they're the exact size he asked for. Apparently, he doesn't want it to be loose when biking. Tried to explain that when he's wearing socks, they won't be as bad. He asked if I can return them and get him new ones. I let him know I have no idea when I'll be able to do that, as I don't have time to just go back and forth to stores for him. End up telling him I'll take them back, but he can get his own when he gets a chance. I have the snack my aunt made and head home. Of course, that's not even the end of it. He calls me later that night around 10 p.m. I don't answer, so he leaves a voicemail. Apparently, the jeans are not to his liking either because he likes them skinnier. I got him a standard pair of straight-leg blue jeans that are the waist size he asked. We're of similar height, so got the same length I wear since he couldn't tell me what length he wears. Didn't want to spend $50 or $60 on other types of jeans, and I don't know his exact fit. Figured if he doesn't like them, he can wear them to work until he can get ones he likes on his own and keep these as a backup pair. I didn't respond or call him back. He sent me a text the other day saying he had given the jeans to my mom when she was visiting so I can return them. Gave me his sizes again, with the only difference being a shoe size a half size smaller. I just gave a thumbs up to his text, spent close to about $100 and an hour and a half of my time to just get complaints. Have no plans of getting him anything, and only plan on returning the items to get my money back. And this will be the last time you go out of your way to do a solid for him, right? I can't imagine having the capacity to be this audacious and unappreciative. Just wow. You're on your own, Uncle. And our next story. Entitled Plane Passenger. So I was flying today, smaller plane, short flight, set up 1 to 2 in first class, 2 to 2 in coach. I, 40-year-old female, am in the first row of coach. Only one person is in row across from me, female, 60-ish. When I sit down, she has a call on speaker talking to a hotel about her room tonight, demanding a room in a specific tower, blah, blah. Annoying, but whatever, I put my earbuds in. Something's wrong with my seat, however, so when the boarding doors closed, I politely asked the flight attendant if I could move across the aisle to the empty seat next to annoying speakerphone lady. Flight attendant says yes. I go to sit down. Annoying speakerphone lady tries to stop me, starts arguing with me that I cannot sit there because the seat is empty and I'm not allowed. I tell her I had permission, which she had heard me get, FYI, but she still keeps it up. The flight attendant comes over, tells her I can sit there, yet she keeps arguing. Finally, I ask if she paid for the empty seat because if not, she needs to shut up, and I sit down. She starts sulking. Flight takes off. She takes off her smelly sneakers and puts her feet in the small pocket of the seat in front of her like a little foot hammock, starts rocking her feet and moving the seat in front of her. For about 20 minutes, thankfully wearing socks, but I could smell her feet. When she gets bored with that, she puts her feet on the wall, then later sits crisscross applesauce on the seat, still no shoes. She gets chips, 3 to 4 bags, eats them with her mouth open so loudly I can hear her over my movie, and gets crumbs all over the place, floor, my arm, self, all over her seat when we left. Looks like a toddler sat there eating goldfish crackers. I think I would have filmed her with helpful narration. How kids, look closely. The lady sitting next to me is demonstrating exactly what you should never do on a plane. And our last story. I made my neighbor redo his fence, which was built incorrectly. My neighbor needed to build a fence around his newly built pool as required by local bylaws. We have an excellent relationship with both our neighbors, so the three of us agreed to share the expense and build a fence on both sides of our property. For context, I had no need or want for a fence. In fact, neither did my other neighbor. Only the pool guy really needed it. We live in a new, higher middle-class neighborhood where very few homes have the land or the means to build a pool. Pool guy works in construction and took charge of the project. I never checked during the building of the posts, which in hindsight was a big mistake. The other neighbor did check, though, and found out the fence was 10 inches or less into his property line, but he was okay with it. However, after the fence was erected, I was shocked to discover that it was 3.5 to 4 feet into my property line. I told him this was unacceptable, especially given that I didn't even want the fence in the first place. He offered me a laughable $500, but I wasn't interested in monetary compensation. Fixing this would require pool guy to pay the contractor again to redo the fence, which I doubt he was thrilled about. I don't think this was intentional, but I suspect he knew about the error during construction and chose to ignore it. In fact, he admitted that he paid the contractor to fill the gap on his side with riverstone when the fence was supposed to be flush with the stonework he already had in place. He said I was putting him in a tough position with the contractor who'd already collected most of the money. We're all in the neighborhood for the long term, and I travel often for work, so my wife could use the assistance of a trustworthy neighbor in my absence. I've heard all kinds of crazy and dramatic stories from friends and colleagues about neighbor disputes, and always considered myself lucky to have two level-headed neighbors. But this situation felt like a turning point in my relationship with Pool Guy. He's a bit of a drama queen, and I felt he violated my trust. At the same time, I wondered if I was pushing boundaries over these 4 feet, especially since the third neighbor let it slide. After realizing that Pool Guy wasn't going to take responsibility for his mistake, I decided to take a different approach. I contacted a lawyer to explore my options, and they confirmed that the fence was indeed on my property and that I had every right to demand its removal or realignment. I informed Pool Guy that he either corrected the fence or faced legal consequences. As expected, he didn't take this well. He tried to argue and guilt-trip me about the cost and the inconvenience, but I wasn't about to let someone take advantage of me, especially when I had tried to be reasonable from the start. When he realized I wasn't backing down, he begrudgingly agreed to have the fence moved to its proper location. However, the damage to our relationship was done. Once the fence was finally fixed, I decided to cut off all unnecessary communication with Pool Guy. I wasn't interested in maintaining a relationship with someone who had shown such blatant disregard for my property and trust. While it was disappointing to lose what I thought was a good neighbor, I'm relieved to have resolved the issue on my terms. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.